Welcome back, folks, to WrestleRant. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and right here on the show, I break down every single pay-per-view that I watch on the WWE Network. Today, we're talking about 1999 St. Valentine's Day Massacre pay-per-view as seen on the network. So I've actually seen this show before. Obviously, I rewatched it in order to review here for the show, but I watched it for the first time about a year and a half ago, obviously on Valentine's Day itself, on the anniversary of the show. Not the 15-year, but I think the 16-year anniversary of the show. In just 2015. So I watched it back, and I know I kind of teased it not being a good show in my last WrestleRant video when I talked about Rock Bottom 98, which was not a good show whatsoever. This was the exact opposite. And it's funny to me, I think I wrote an article maybe right before I watched the pay-per-view for the first time about a year and a half ago, or afterwards, before, I am not exactly sure. But I've always said that the February pay-per-views, and this has been the case for fucking years, dude, not dating back like to the 80s or 90s or whatever, but at least in the past decade or so, February pay-per-views are so meaningless. And they can be great. They can be a good show and kind of give us the final pit stop, as WWE touts it as, on the road to WrestleMania. And this really felt like it too. I mean, I'll talk about the overall significance of this show and how it really didn't mean anything in the end. But I mean, this show was a great example of how to book a February pay-per-view. And I talked a lot about the No Way Out shows and how entertaining those shows were in the early 2000s. But WWE, somewhere along the way, really lost their way with those shows, especially when it came around to Elimination Chamber in 2010. More often than not, those shows were average or below average, because nothing really changed. And that was kind of the case with this show, too, and I'll talk about that towards the main events, in regards to the main events. But even still, I thought the final half was really entertaining, and the undercard wasn't that bad either. Especially for 99 show, too. I did not like WrestleMania 15. And I talked about it with you guys then, too. I've talked about it a lot of times. I just did not like WrestleMania 15. I didn't like a lot of the WrestleManias from the Attitude Era. I just did not think they were all that good. Maybe one or two matches at best. But overall, they were not great. This show I thought was pretty good overall, though. Anyway, so kicking off the show, Goldust versus Blue Dust. Blue Dust obviously being portrayed by the Blue Meanie, who took on Goldust's alter ego, I guess, or stole his gimmick, so to speak. The match went all 3 minutes. Not really that good. The crowd was into it, so that was good. I guess for an opener, it was perfectly slotted in the opening match of the show. So not a good match, but Goldust win, and I thought it was a fine little angle to do something with Goldust in the meantime, who just did not look really all that good here at all in terms of like his how big he got at that point. Anyway, Bob Holly taking on Al Snow up next for the vacant Hardcore Championship. Road Dogg had to vacate the belt after being attacked. Man, I forgot who it was by, but I remember he had to vacate the belt because he got injured or whatever. And he was gone from the division shortly thereafterwards, only to chase the Intercontinental Championship. But yeah, Bob Holly and Al Snow having a very fun match here. I enjoy any hardcore match that goes outside of the box. Specifically by that, I mean outside of the arena, and these guys did exactly just that. Going out to the water, going out and across the street. And in the end, Hardcore Holly, at this point, just Bob Holly, and he would scrap the spark plug name. He wrapped up Al Snow in a barbed wire fence, not barbed wire, but inside a fence, which was pretty creative. And we see, we hear speculation throughout the night of whether Al Snow is still there or not, which is pretty hilarious. But a fun match. Bob Holly is the new Hardcore Champion. After that, we had Big Boss Man versus Mideon. Awful match. I mean, you put two terrible workers in one match. A negative plus a negative is negative, isn't it? I'm not a math major. I'm a journalism major. Just keep that in mind. But you know what I'm saying. If you have two negatives, more often than not, it's going to be a shitty-ass match. So the match was not good. That would lead us to Big Boss Man and Undertaker, God save us all, inside of Hell in a Cell at WrestleMania 15. I don't know. I'd have to look back at a lot of the recent Hell in a Cells. But easily one of, if not the worst Hell in a Cell match up until at least like the PG era. That match was fucking terrible. After that, for the tag team titles, Owen Hart and Jeff Jarrett successfully retaining their titles against Mark Henry and D'Lo Brown. All right match. Both teams had good chemistry. Owen Hart and Jarrett win. Nothing really much more to the match than that. After that, we had Val Venus versus Ken Shamrock for the Intercontinental Championship with Billy Gunn as the special guest referee. So Billy Gunn had already been feuding with Ken Shamrock over the championship, but Val Venus came in after he started dating Ken Shamrock's sister, Ryan Shamrock, who was insanely hot. I think she follows me on Twitter, actually, nowadays, which is really weird. But anyway, I think we follow each other on Twitter. Anyway, so he was sitting on his sister. She said, I love you. They're in a relationship. Obviously, Ken does not approve. The crowd does not approve of Ken not approving. So that leads to the match here. Good story. The match I thought was good. I thought the story was good with Billy Gunn already disliking Ken Shamrock, so he refused to make the fall. anytime Ken Shamrock had a pinfall cover on Val Venus. In the end, Ken Shamrock, just after Ryan went up to his sister, Billy Gunn said back off. He pushed him, and then Billy Gunn just went off, punched him, threw him into the ring. Val Venus made a quick cover, quick roll-up. Billy Gunn, 1, 2, 3, quick count. New Intercontinental Champion is Val Venus. A lot of people thought, Ken Shamrock would drop the belt to Billy Gunn at WrestleMania. Obviously not the case. Billy Gunn would enter the hardcore title picture, and then Road Dogg would be the one to win the IC Championship at WrestleMania, oddly enough. So this was one giant clusterfuck, but I enjoyed it. The next 3 matches I thought were all really, really good. 3 back-to-back-to-back amazing main events, which is pretty rare for an Attitude Era pay-per-view, to be quite honest with you. But first up, we had the Corporations, Kane and Chyna versus DX's Triple H and X-Pac. So Chyna had turned on D-Generation X only to join the Corporation. And obviously Triple H really wanted to get her hands on Chyna here, only to hurt her, not the other way that you're probably thinking. But that was the whole story of this match. And it was weird. You would think it'd be the other way around, with Triple H turning on Chyna and people really rallying behind Chyna to see her get her hands on Triple H. But no, even back in 1999, people really wanted to see the guy beat up the woman, and he called her a big muscle-headed bitch or something like that. Just called her big or whatever, and called her a bitch. So that is 1999 for you folks. That is tasteless 1999. But anyway, I thought the match was good, and you had Shane McMahon come in on commentary, obviously a Corporation member. And he was hilarious. And a lot of people might think he was annoying or obnoxious. I thought he was fucking great here. Shane is always entertaining. But I thought the over-the-top heel Shane on commentary was fucking gold. And he really added to my enjoyment of the match. And him just shitting on Michael Cole the entire time was also great too. Even in 1999 did other superstars not like Michael Cole, which was pretty great. So anyway, really fun match. In the end, Triple H nearly scores the victory, has that pedigree in hand on Chyna before Kane comes in, chokeslams Triple H, puts Chyna on top of Triple H, and again, not the way that you're thinking, and Chyna scores the victory for her team. So again, really entertaining story. Chyna, they made the whole point that this was the first time that a woman had been involved in a man's match. She was in the Royal Rumble, so not technically the first time. That was only a month prior, which they didn't make mention of, by the way, I'm pretty sure. But anyway, I thought this was great, and Chyna, as I've said time and time again over the years that followed, did not look out of place whatsoever in men's matches because she was just that good. After that, for the WWE Championship in a last man standing match, Mankind defends against The Rock. This was during the ongoing series of matches these two had from, I talked about it, Rock Bottom 98, which was a good match. This was way better. I think their I Quit match might be the best match they ever had at the Royal Rumble, which was pretty tough to watch with all the brutal chair shots I talked about that in my Rumble review earlier this year, if you want to check that out. But that was probably the best match they ever had. They had the halftime heat match. They had the match on Raw the next night where Rock would finally win back the WWE Championship for Mankind. But still a really, really good match. It was a draw after both men could refuse to answer the 10 count. They dragged it a little bit with both guys being carted into the ambulance. So that would set up their last and final match, their final match for the WWE Championship the next night on Raw, where Rock would win and go into WrestleMania as the WWE Champion. So again, really good match despite the non-finish. Main event time. In a steel cage match with the winner advancing to the main event of WrestleMania for the WWE title, Mr. McMahon versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. So of course, they build this as the end of the rivalry, as the culmination of a year and a half long feud between these two. Obviously, it was anything but. They would continue the feud. They would continue to feud over the next fucking 2 years. So that really made no difference. But still, a really good match. Not technical wrestling match, but McMahon took a hell of a beating, falling off the side of the cage before the match even began. Technically, it's clocked in here in an 8-minute match, but they pretty much brawled for a while. But they didn't ring the bell until after McMahon took the bump, which was brutal. I think McMahon talked about it. Vince talked about it on Stone Cold's podcast early last year, if you want to check that out. And I forgot how badly he said he was hurt. But it was a pretty nasty bump. I'm pretty sure he hit his head in the back of a monitor. And the guy, even at that point, was 40, at least 50, definitely 50 years old. So not an easy bump to take, but he took a hell of a beating throughout the rest of the match. It looked like he almost had that match won at one point. And before Stone Cold could win, out comes Paul White, later known as The Big Show, debuting in WWE in this match. Coming out from the ring itself, the canvas, he emerges from the canvas like Kane would years later, maybe even before that. Brutalizes Stone Cold, picks him up, and is going to throw him under the steel cage wall, only for the wall to give way, and Stone Cold falls on the floor to become the winner and advance to WrestleMania for the WWE Championship. So I can't recall. I know they've addressed this before. I'm pretty sure it was meant to happen that way, but Stone Cold's reaction, he sold it so well that you would think that it was real. And maybe it was real, I forgot. pretty sure, obviously, Stone Cold was going to win. He went on to beat Rock for the championship at Mania. So I can't remember exactly, but still, it was a creative finish, so it was pretty cool. And an impactful debut that for Paul White, the Big Show, whatever you want to call him, that is still being talked about to this day, almost 2 decades later. So a really good main event and a great story told there. So overall, an entertaining show. A lot more entertaining than I remember it being. Maybe I don't know, didn't like it at the time when I rewatched it, when I watched it for the first time about a year and a half ago. But rewatching it today, I thought it was really good. Especially the 3 main events. This show is worth watching for those back-to-back-to-back great main event matches, the great marquee matches alone, with the Corporation versus DX, Mankind versus Rock in the Last Man Standing match, and the Steel Cage match between Stone Cold and Mr. McMahon. So check out the show, St. Valentine's Day Massacre, as seen on the WWE Network. So we only have 3 episodes left, folks, until we take a hiatus here on WrestleRant. I will be taking a break for the month of December from reviewing shows here on WrestleRant, only to, because at the start of the year, we'll be redoing the entire YouTube upload schedule. I'm not going to give away exactly what it is just yet, but I will give you more details as that comes along. But bottom line, we will be taking a break from WrestleRant for about a little over a month, right after Thanksgiving and in the entire month of December. Videos will still be going up, obviously, #AskGSM. I think WWE Network and Chill will also be taking a break after Thanksgiving around the same time the WrestleRant will be. So that week will be the final week that we have up videos for WrestleRant and WWE Network and Chill for the year of 2016 before it starts right back up again with all new reviews of In Your House and much more on WWE Network and Chill and right here on WrestleRant starting in the first week of 2017. But before that even happens, we are not there yet. My final 3 episodes of WrestleRant will be covering the following. The next one being Survivor Series 2015, TLC 2014, and TLC 2015. Great note to end on, just because I was at that show last year, so I can't wait to talk about it. So anyway, guys, in the meantime and in between time, you guys can find me on the Twitter machine and follow me there at WrestleRant. Find me on Facebook. Give the Apology a thumbs up at facebook.com/graham.gsm.matthews. And right here on YouTube, by liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. So as always, guys, have a great one, and I'll catch you fine folks down the road.